What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Hungover History Podcast, episode 4. We're a week behind. My apologies on my part, but we're back. RJ here. Mike, how you doing?
How you doing? We have a
Yeah,
really fun one today.
We do. Fun, dense, and we can shout out Christian Barrasso, a good friend of ours, suggested this topic. Little did we know what we were getting ourselves into here, because it's a big one, and it's the Kosovo War. But obviously, there's a lot to it. It goes back a while in history. So
yeah, and it's weird too. I was looking it up. Apparently, it's not even referred to as the Kosovo War over in Europe. It's called the Kosovo Insurgency.
Insurgency, interesting.
Yeah, so it was, because they were fighting against a small group of primarily Albanian militias. But we'll get into that because there's a lot of prelude to getting into this. So this pretty much branched off from the fall of Yugoslavia at the end of the Soviet Union, just like a lot of other stuff in the area. Like most people know about Bosnia, the genocide there, the wars in Croatia and Macedonia, Slovenia, but it really starts way far back. Like, what was it? Battle of Kosovo, 1389?
Yeah, and for those who don't know too, like Kosovo is a country now in the Balkans, though, we're going to get to the buildup of how that became thing, but they became a country in 2008, but not everyone recognized it. Russia amongst those lists.
Some still don't.
So a lot. I think in Spain, Slovakia, Cyprus, Romania, Greece, Serbia, they don't acknowledge it. But so that happened in 2008. But yeah, like you were saying, it kind of springs back from a religious, ethnic kind of war.
Yeah,
the
that's
Battle of Kosovo.
Pretty much when Turkey, the former Ottomans, was just going on a mad one, colonizing most of Eastern Europe.
Yep.
And their empire was predominantly Muslim, and at the time, it was primarily Christian in the area where modern-day Kosovo was at that point in time. And most of the Serbians fled north to like Germany-type area where they were friendlier towards Orthodox Christians. And the Albanians, for the most part, just sort of flipped over and kind of just converted to Islam and assimilated with the Turks. So that's kind of where the tensions started.
And it seems like the Ottomans gave some incentives, like tax cuts, stuff like that.
Yeah, no, if you
for them to
converted,
convert.
Just like we did in the Crusades too.
Right.
They made it a lot more desirable to be a Muslim in that area.
A little abuse of religious power, it
also,
happens.
I couldn't find a Serbian or Albanian beer in my area, so I got a Ukrainian. What is this? Svilce lager beer, the first Ukrainian beer.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I got close. I got a country in the Balkans. I got Croatia,
former Yugoslavia. That's good enough.
Showing it off. I don't know. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce this. It's a lemon rattler, though. It's pretty good. 2% ABV, not strong, but that's all right.
Kids.
It's but I thought this was interesting. So it's brewed and bottled in Sarajevo, and then it's imported in New Jersey. And I like their website here. It says follow us at www.illyriancraft.com.
Okay.
And speaking of the Illyrians, I guess, so the Illyrian Empire was an empire prior to the Romans that it was a little bit of the boot of Italy and then across Croatia in that area. And why it matters to this is the Albanians believe that they are the pure descendants of the Illyrians, right?
And the Serbians also believe that.
Yes, there's some conflict there. But Illyria, the Illyrian Empire fell when the Roman Empire kind of became a thing under Augustus through a few wars there. But it's just something to keep in the back of mind how far back this goes. So you can draw. It feels like each time we find something, you can go back and trace more stuff. So it's pretty crazy. But yeah, let's get into it. So the Kosovo War, Kosovo conflict, there's a lot of different names for it. And like you said, the insurgency too. It's technically from 1998 to 1999. That's the official thing when you look it up on Wikipedia or whatever. But it's a big buildup. And that was kind of the climax for it. And even still today, not everything's settled, like we said. But
definitely not.
Let's get into the background. You mentioned Yugoslavia, Mike. I think that's a good place to start.
That's the kickoff to all of it. When Yugoslavia fell and all these different conflicts started popping off, Kosovo was honestly one of the last civil wars in the area. But a lot of people blame the handling of Kosovo by the Serbs on the result of what happened in Bosnia. So there's kind of a similar situation in Bosnia. It was a predominantly Muslim area, and when the Yugoslavia fell, the Serbians who were retaking the land were kind of just doing retribution killings, and there was insane genocide over there. I think like 50,000 people.
Wow.
But yeah. So after that, we did something called the Dayton Accords, which gave NATO a bunch of power in the region, and it pissed Serbia off a lot. And people kind of speculate that that's what pushed them over to really start making incursions into Kosovo again.
Yeah, and it seems like, I mean, we watched a ton of videos on YouTube. So I'm glad we're doing this because I think it's a good topic for this podcast in terms of, we're trying to bring light to stuff that's not talked about a lot. But it was interesting watching those videos, and like people tried to be non-biased about stuff, but you could tell that certain people when they were talking had some thoughts about it. And if you read the comments, it's just attacking each other.
It's like an internet
still
meme,
heated,
like Serbians and Albanians going at it.
Yeah. I think I don't know if it was the Olympics or one of the soccer tournaments recently, didn't Albania play Serbia? And it was like this big deal.
Wild out on each other.
Yeah, I think Dua Lipa was in attendance. Good Albanian woman. But yeah, so the fall of Yugoslavia. So the Balkans consist of I think it's 11 countries.
Yeah, and at that time it was insanely unstable. It was a boiling pot right over oil.
It's where World War I erupted too, right?
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah. And Serbia also had a lot of interesting roles in World War I, and the Albanians would fuck with Serbia. Like, they were being pushed back by the Germans, and the Albanians who were with the Allies, they would just throw shit and shoot at the Serbian soldiers moving through the mountains, just because they've always hated each other, even when they were on the same team.
And I think did Italy occupy Albania during World War II?
Albania pretty much was Italy for a while.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing about that area in the Balkans. There seems to be constant conflict. And we said before the podcast how this conflict kind of echoes, Israel, Palestine. There's religious elements. There's
Northern Ireland, the Troubles.
There's a belief of ownership over a certain area, and it's still going on. But I think the biggest thing is, NATO involvement in the war that came up in the 90s. And I saw a lot about ethnic cleansing was the phrase that I saw a lot about in terms of the Serbians trying to cleanse the area of the Albanians who are Muslims. But you like you said, probably not, devout Muslims.
Yeah. So I was actually able to reach out and secure my own primary source for this. So I went to college in Poughkeepsie, New York, and when I was a freshman, there was no Uber up there, so we only had cab drivers, and it was always Kosovo War Albanians, and they were really nice guys. And I eventually was talking to this one guy, Johnny, just about his time while I was in college, just because I was a history nerd, and I was like, "You're from Kosovo," and that's pretty much synonymous with war, pretty much.
Right.
People hear Kosovo and they think of the war. So I remember we started researching this, and I was like, fuck it, I have his number. I'll shoot him a message. And he was very eager to talk to me because his brother, Johnny, immigrated here when he was 13 from Kosovo, and he's like in his 50s now. So late 70s, early 80s.
Was that 80s? Yeah.
Yeah, he moved to New York City, which has the highest concentration of Albanians, and specifically Kosovo Albanians. And he lived in the Bronx, and his brother also immigrated with him. His brother was a little bit older than him, and when this started going on, he and his family were watching the TV every night, like crying. Like they were seeing like people who they knew, like villagers who they knew on TV, just piled up in bodies, like horrible stuff. Yeah. So Johnny's older brother went to go join the KLA, the Kosovo Liberation Army, which we'll get into later, but he just had a lot of crazy insights that I'll bring up more later on as they make sense. But according to him, and I tried to find some actual statistic, but it seemed like roughly 2,000 ethnic Albanians went from America back over to Kosovo to fight the
Oh,
Serbs.
really?
Yeah, 2,000.
Oh, came from America back there?
Yeah, from America.
Oh,
Just
wow, that's incredible.
immigrated over there to go fight.
Yeah.
And not
Yeah, I
everyone
mean,
made it, but apparently he didn't really get into the exact engagements that his brother was in, but I was able to
yeah.
look up where he was stationed and stuff. And he was there for the late war, so he got there in 1999.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was 1996 kind of when terrorist attacks and some smaller little things started boiling up, right?
Yeah, so like on April 22nd, 1996, three off-duty Serbian police are chilling in a cafe in West Kosovo. A group of masked men gunned them down and escaped. This ended up being the first known KLA hit and run operation.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess we can go into the KLA now, I think, because they are kind of the big force there. So, I mean, they're viewed as, from the Serbian perspective, as terrorists.
Yeah, totally.
But it's a nationalistic group.
It's like the old saying, one man's terrorist is another one's a freedom fighter.
Exactly.
The KLA are weird because the Albanians in Kosovo had no real political or military power.
Mm-hmm.
So they did kind of fill a void, but it was also a paramilitary. And anytime you have a paramilitary, you try to throw away a level of professionalism right out the window.
Right.
So I was finding some of the war crimes that the KLA committed. One of them was, so I found a prison camp that was run in Lapušnik that was run by the KLA, and apparently they executed 9 Serbian civilians after one of their battles. So I don't know. I don't know as much about the terrorist attacks, but I do know that they were doing hit and run operations. It seemed like for the most part, they were trying to target military, but just like anything, the waters get muddy.
Yeah, and especially for this war, there seems to be a lot of civilian casualties when we get into the NATO bombings. And
so much of it is civilians fighting in it. Even the Serbians, they had their Serbian army, the Serbian police, special forces, but then they had random groups of paramilitary militias. Like one was the Jackals, which accepted volunteers from the United States as well. So it's this weird thing where you see Serbians and Albanians in the States going back to their homeland.
Yeah, which is a testament to that nationalism that we've talked about in a few episodes already, and how that affects people. But I'm curious, so before Kosovo was a country, was it kind of just an area?
Yeah, it was,
so it was like Palestine.
Yeah, it's a Palestine. I would say it's more like a kind of like, I mean, Kurdistan's obviously not a real place, but people who know about the Kurds, Kurdistan used to be a country before the post-World War II Ottoman draw up.
Yep.
It's just kind of, it's always somewhat had their own ethnic identity, but it's always just been in this weird conflicting space between two predominant groups.
Right.
And the Serbians would say that Kosovo became a country just so NATO could secure more power in the region. That's an argument I've read from the Serbian side, saying that there is no real ethnic identity there and that this is a NATO-built country to benefit us.
So yeah, the Serbians are definitely not fans of NATO's intervention in the war.
Us, bro. They fucking hate us.
Yeah,
because I think you said the statistic, man. What was it?
Oh, it was 19 NATO countries against Serbia.
Yeah, and how many? What was the civilian?
Oh yeah, I don't quote me on this, but one of the YouTube videos I was watching said something like 40% of the Serbian casualties in the war were civilian casualties, probably from the bombings.
And that mentality sticks today. Like, I think I sent you the documentary I watched way back. It's from 2018 called A Sniper's War. It's all about a Serbian volunteer who fights for the Russians at the time in Ukraine before the major war had started. But he did that because both of his parents were killed by, he says, Bill Clinton. They were killed in the NATO bombings in Serbia. So he just still today harvested this intense like resentment towards all Western countries. So that's why, it's weird.
Yeah, definitely. And
you always portray us as the good guy.
Right. And I mean, NATO is still a debate that's happened today, too, in our conflicts. Obviously, Ukraine and Russia right now is a big issue. So it definitely gets complicated when you're talking about U.S. and other countries' intervention in foreign wars. And U.S. got up to a lot of that following World War II. You know?
No, yeah, and it's one of those things. But then, so on the one side, the Serbians hate us. On the other, Johnny's talking to me. They fucking love Bill Clinton. They have statues built all over Kosovo, multiple. Oh yeah,
the Albanians love Bill Clinton.
Albanians love him. Also, some Kosovars. So like I was watching in, I think it was the NATO thing you sent me from NATO's YouTube channel. So it might be tilted. Group. But they had that old man, the Serbian guy, in his restaurant, and he was like, I hated NATO for a while, but the region's relatively stable now. So I don't know. But also NATO literally fucking posted that. So
well, I will say, in looking in the comments of that video, I did see that even some Serbians were commenting saying that although they don't agree with everything that happened, that they support that group. And that group is the KFOR.
Yep, Kosovo something.
Yeah, I think it's more. It's a more just like a peacekeeping group that they've established there, and I think are still there today.
Yeah, it's like
that video was only 4 years old.
Yeah,
yeah. The KFOR is a NATO-led international peacekeeping force in Kosovo. Its operations are gradually reducing until Kosovo's security force, established in 2009, becomes self-sufficient. So it's ongoing. Though, I mean, I know that Albania, I think I saw, was the third poorest country in Europe.
Yeah.
So the Balkans are definitely not a...
Yeah. Albania was like known as almost I saw one video where it was called Europe's North Korea throughout the Cold War.
Yeah, I watched
their leader was insanely paranoid. He built bunkers all over the country. Like they have more bunkers than any other country. So I don't know. It's two very strange countries going at it here.
And they're not big, you know. That's the crazy part. It's amazing that like two small countries like this could cause such an international conflict.
But so I'll just try and get a bit more into the prelude of the war. So those cops are killed by the KLA, also called the UCK by Albanians. Like Johnny, he told me it was the UCK. I looked it up. It's now known as the KLA.
Synonymous. Okay.
But so the KLA claimed responsibility. Then in 1997, there's skirmishes in actual Albania, the country, and a shitload of armories are robbed. And all of a sudden, there are all these weapons flowing into Kosovo by patriotic Albanians who are trying to get more territory. And that was originally one of the KLA's doctrines. They didn't want independent Kosovo. They wanted Kosovo to join Albania to become one. So
because Kosovo had a majority Albanian population,
it was like roughly 80%, I want to say.
Which confuses me, because it's like, what is Serbia's deal with it? You know,
religious symbols for the Greek or the Serbian Orthodox Church. I forget what it specifically was, but some of their first churches are there. For them, it's a religious play. So
just kind of like Jerusalem.
Yeah, exactly. I guess Serbia would be Israel. I don't know.
Okay.
Let's not change that. That could be
bad news.
Oh no. Okay, I get canceled. All right. So yeah, they did all the weapons in 1997, and so this is a relatively known fact. 80% of the weapons used by Albania occurred in 1990, like were smuggled over in 1997 during the conflict. So a lot of the KLA's weapons are from actual Albania. So then on February 28th, 1998, Serbian police killed 24 ethnic Albanian civilians. And this is kind of known as the official beginning of the war. And because the KLA, they're not really strong enough to do like these direct battles that you'd think about in like Russia-Ukraine war or whatever. So they're more doing hit and run type operations.
It was like guerrilla warfare, right?
Yeah, precisely, guerrilla warfare. Then, let me see. Yeah, so the pushing point was then in 1999 in January, Yugoslavian Serb army massacred 45 Albanians, and then NATO got involved. So that was mainly the big push.
And NATO's involvement began in 98?
Actually, yeah,
I would assume so, because like that, the deaths from from the KLA that you had mentioned before is kind of the moment that actually sprung it into a war.
Yep.
So they, I
this is what it was. It was the Rock Massacre.
Yes.
45 Kosovo Albanians, and and that's known as the events that Clinton started using in his press conferences to try to get the American people a bit more like invested in what was going on in Kosovo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's a good time to bring up back to that ethnic cleansing thing, because I found a U.S. State Department report. This is dated in December 1999, so towards the end of the war there. And this is basically, they kind of listed out what was going on there that they believed was, warranted their involvement. So it was like forceful displacement of Kosovar Albanians, looting of homes and businesses, burning homes, use of human shields, detentions, executions, rape, violations of medical neutrality, and exhumation of mass graves. So I mean, if that's true, I mean, these are all, I mean, when I read it, like it's reports.
So allegedly, rape was a large weapon of war in this. Like, for a lot of what I saw, so the Serbians would be ambushed in a village, like the traditional police or military. They would return to their base and they would send out Serbian paramilitaries, so civilians who are just armed up, and they would then go in and do retribution killings. And one of their strategies was they would rape to tell the population this is what happens. So it was around 20,000 estimated rape victims in Kosovo, which it's a small place. It's a small fucking place. That would be, I think, like 2 in 10 women, something like that. Yeah.
And that was the Serbians.
That was primarily being done by the Serbians. I did find cases though where the KLA would go into a predominantly Serbian area, which was usually in Western Kosovo, closer to the Serbian border, and they would do the same.
Yeah, I mean, there were war crimes all around in this conflict. No,
both sides were guilty of war crimes.
I thought it was interesting. You brought it up about that the shot down plane, the U.S. stealth bomber.
So I didn't even know about this. My brother knew, but let me look up the actual model plane.
I think it was. I have it here. It's an F-117A.
Yeah.
If you look them up, people will know that's the classic like stealth bomber.
So I was reading, and the guy who shot it down, like the fucking Serb who shot it down, he was able to do like an interview in 2008 about it. But yeah, I mean, it was the first and only time a United States stealth bomber or stealth aircraft has ever been shot down in combat.
I wonder what he shot it down with.
Oh yeah, it's
firing a surface-to-air missile.
It was no, but on Wikipedia it shows it was an old piece of shit Soviet missile launcher.
Yeah, an S-125.
I think they launched like roughly 8 rockets at him. One of them hit, and the pilot did the evacuation thing from the plane where he shoots off.
And he survived. Yeah,
and then U.S. pararescue men rescued him. So it's
kind
of
like the video.
Enemy lines.
What? Oh yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little behind enemy lines.
Looking back, it's like, all right, this is probably loosely based off of this.
On that,
obviously, in behind enemy lines. I think that was Bosnia. Let me look up behind enemy lines.
I forgot about those movies. There's a bunch.
This isn't a series of a pod because this is so much to learn about.
Yeah, and like we said, like most of the videos we found on this were from people in the area talking about it in Europe. So we're definitely one of few talking about it, which I think is good, and we're learning along the way. So hopefully, whoever's listening is gonna try to learn more too after the fact. But it's definitely complicated.
Oh yeah, I definitely want to go more into the Yugoslavian wars primarily, just because it's so interesting. Yeah, so behind enemy lines was actually based off of a different case where it was another pilot who was shot down in an F-16.
And because when did the first behind enemy lines come out? Those are old.
Right? 2001. So this was right after.
Okay, yeah. So there might have been some influence there, definitely. I will say though, in the comment on that video, the Serbians were not kind to that bomber pilot who survived.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, that makes sense. I recently watched a little documentary on Pearl Harbor, and they had a fucking Japanese pilot there, and I was like, "What the fuck?
Oh wow!
Yeah,
yeah.
I get it. I get it.
I mean, listen, with those bombings, we're seeing it today. They're not. You don't always hit the ones you intend,
No.
which is not great. Yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah, we can circle back to the Yugoslavia if you got more stuff to say on that. I mean, it's hard to like simplify this conflict. You really can't.
I mean, so the real cliff notes is it officially begins in 98. It's tough to say who started it, because a part of the issue was Muslims were being genocided up in Bosnia by the Serbs. So this did make a lot of Albanian Muslims, even though they weren't particularly religious, and it made them want to take action.
Yeah, and I think it was the KLA when it emerged in '96, but then there was one significant moment where that's kind of listed from most of the sources I've seen as the start of the war.
Yeah. I mean, there's this one battle. It was March 5th through 7th, 1998, Battle of Fragates. And that's when the Serbian forces went to the home of a KLA leader and pretty much torched the entire house. So let me find. It was roughly 5,000 Yugoslavian policemen, soldiers, and special forces, at least one attack helicopter, several APCs, armored vehicles, mortars, and artillery, versus 28 KLA insurgents.
Jeez.
And after that, they ended up killing most of the village. So that's when the international outcry really, really started to pick up. And like there were marches in around 8 major American cities of like over 100,000 people.
Of people living in the U.S. from that area.
American civilians who were just like, holy shit.
Yeah, and it definitely it sounds like it was a complicated decision about whether the U.S. was going to get involved or not.
Yes and no, like because we had just done it before in Bosnia, like 2 years earlier.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense, but yeah, and also Desert Storm happened a couple years before. It was a weird time for the United States.
Yeah, and they joined it in March 24th, 99.
Yep.
So we weren't there for the first year.
2 weeks after this massacre took place.
Yeah. And the one that I was referencing, though, was February 28th, 1998. Serbian police killed 24 ethnic Albanians, and that's sometimes known as the official beginning of the war. Yeah. So that's the moment I was thinking of when you see. But again, like it's hard to pinpoint.
No,
you can. For them, this war has been going on forever. It's like.
Oh
yeah.
I saw a interview. It was a Serbian who was a volunteer with, what was it? I think it was the Jackals paramilitary group, and he was testifying against members of his paramilitary, like in international court, and I think he had to move to like, I don't know, Montenegro or something, but he was talking about this one war crime they committed. They burnt down this entire village of Peja just because the KLA's leader was from it. Like he didn't live there or anything. It's the village he was born in.
It was just like to send a message.
All down to the crowd.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird. I don't know. It's tough to get a real top dog on the war crimes here, but I think Serbia might be pulling ahead with it.
Yeah, and again, like the U.S., a lot of the documents we're reading are from U.S. and they supported Albania. So, but it definitely seems like there were a lot of war crimes on the Serbian side from that list we had just mentioned. I brought up like the civilian casualties number. So throughout that 2-year period, it's saying that it's around 13,500 people were killed or went missing during the conflict.
Okay.
And I mean, for a small country,
like that, it's like a year.
And then ethnic cleansing wise, it says between 1.2 million and 1.45 million Kosovo Albanians were displaced by Yugoslav and Serb forces.
No, yeah, and actually, it's funny. I was looking up Kosovo Albanian like predominant hot pockets in the United States. It's New York City, Michigan, and Massachusetts.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Shout out Massachusetts. Interesting.
Yeah.
What was the second one?
Michigan.
Interesting.
Detroit. Yeah.
Interesting. Maybe they went for the car industry. They went to work. Yeah.
But also, it's funny. So the NATO bombing, like you were saying, there was also known misuse of the United States NATO bombing where, we bombed Albanian refugees near Drazovka on April 14th, 1999, and they killed like 73 civilians. And for 2 days, we denied it, just saying, no, we didn't. No, we didn't. Then
it comes out.
Admitted.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, we didn't have too many U.S. casualties. I think there were, 2?
There was like none.
Yeah.
Besides the guy getting shot down, I think a troop killed himself while he was deployed over there, but there was no real casualties. But actually, also my neighbor, who's like my dad's age now, he served in Kosovo back in the 90s. And one of my dad's old coworkers, who was Massachusetts National Guard, went over there. And his job was clearing landmines. So for a while, the entire area of the former Yugoslavia was known to be one of the most mined areas in the entire world.
Wow.
So we really were there on a peacekeeping mission. We weren't fighting. We weren't like teaming up with the Albanians to fight against the Serbs.
Yeah,
we were there to like hold the peace.
It's apart from the bombings.
Yeah. Besides that, that was to hit the military installations.
No, but no. I mean, that's a good point. Like in terms of boots on the ground, we really didn't have too much.
Yeah, and it wasn't only us. It was a couple other NATO nations.
Yeah, I think it was 19 in total, counting them. Probably the old reliable. I'm sure we had England and them in there. This other thing I was going to bring up too was I think the Bill Clinton statue thing is very funny.
Oh, it's hilarious.
It's just so wild that it's there. And that's in present day Kosovo, or is that in Albania? Kosovo. They have it. Okay.
Kosovo, yeah.
So numbers wise, is it still predominantly Albanian in Kosovo?
I believe so. Let me pull it up. And apparently they live in relative peace. There's still some weird stuff that happens today, but let's see.
And it is a very young country still. Like we had said that we still have the NATO presence there because they haven't quite established themselves fully.
Ethnic Albanians at 92%.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So Kosovo's between the two, right?
Yeah, on the map, Kosovo borders Albania, Serbia, and I think Montenegro from the south.
Yeah, and it looks like landmass-wise, Serbia's a lot bigger than Kosovo.
Yeah, Serbia's the big bad bully.
And then you got North Macedonia there too, where 3 U.S. soldiers did get killed there, right? Unrelated to the direct war. Oh, captured?
Yeah, by Yugoslav forces. This was hilarious. I found this Washington Post article from like 1998. Yeah, a group of Yugoslavian I think they were still Yugoslavian. Armed forces, like around 40 dudes, pretty much encircled a Humvee, started opening fire, and the sergeant in the Humvee was like, "All right, we're gonna surrender. We're outgunned." And so that's kind of funny.
Yeah, but they got a nice Humvee.
Yeah. But no, it's weird, man. So Johnny was also telling me there was a well-known story that happened. I think it was the Reykjavik brothers, but and he knew these dudes who were from the Bronx. These 3 brothers, I think it was 21, 23, and like 26-year-old guys. Mm-hmm. They went over to Kosovo from New York to go fight because that felt like their patriotic duty, this and that. Their fathers fought against the Nazis in World War II, all this. So these 3 brothers get there. They get out of the airport in Kosovo. They get picked up by a cab. They don't realize that the cab driver was Serbian because so much of the country is Albanian. So the Serbian cab driver hears them talking in the back. He drives them like the western area where it's more Serbian forces to a Serbian police station. They're all tied up, shot in the back of the head into like a ditch and then buried. And they were found in like 2004. With 70 other bodies.
That's crazy.
Oh yeah, dude. So that was like really well known. That got a lot of Albanians very fired up about it, and that's part of the reason. I don't know about you. I see a lot of Albanian pride. Every Albanian I know has the flag in their Instagram. They're very vocal.
I will say that. Yeah.
And I get it. Like I'm Irish. I'm totally the same way.
Yeah, and for me, like being Italian, like I know, like in the north end of Boston, where I went a lot growing up, like there's a lot of Albanians there too.
Totally. Well, it's funny. Albanians actually in New York City. It's kind of like people know Brighton Beach, the Russian mafia, all this.
Yeah,
the Albanian mafia is what people are actually thinking of when they think of the Russian mafia. They're partly because they were just such shut-ins for so long, but their underground criminal network is insane. And out of modern day Albania and shit, it's actually,
and again, for such a small country too.
Yeah, I think that they supply like 80% of Europe's marijuana, something like that.
Really?
Yeah, they traffic all the weed. It's grown over there in the mountains. It's like impossible to get to. And
I will. But when you sent that video about comparing North Korea to Albania, it's definitely a corrupt country.
Yeah, and the thing is, neither of them are not to be an asshole, but neither of them are the best guys.
Sure.
I'm not, I'm completely pro-Albanian because they were nutty too.
But still, like you said, there's a lot of good people from those areas, and in the U.S., there's a lot of people who are still deeply rooted there. They're passionate about it, and it makes sense, you know.
And that being said, like we mentioned earlier, Albanians are some of the most patriotic people you will ever meet. Like they are truly fucking so pro USA. Obviously, it's a bit less in Serbia because we bombed them like 25 years ago, but yeah,
we did. Yeah, I'm trying to see kind of the current status of Kosovo. I mean, the fact that not too much is popping up means, like you said, it's probably pretty tame there.
I do know there was an issue with license plates over there. There was some weird bullshit where they were trying to allow, what was it, Serbian license plates in, or were they trying to make separate license plates for Albania?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I don't know.
I also did see something about weapons
seized. Yeah, yep.
A lot of weapons are still flowing through that area, and I saw something that the Paris, one of the Paris attacks. I mean, there's been so many recently, but was using some of the weapons from there. So the video that I saw was talking about how they believe that the KLA are still operating, but kind of a lot more quietly, and maybe not as obviously like touting that it's the KLA and things like that.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that there's still. So in one of the videos I was watching, this lady who's Serbian, she said that most of the ethnic tensions aren't in the major cities in Kosovo. It's in the countryside where you really just interact with each other less. Kind of like what could be said for people anywhere. The more you interact with someone, maybe you'll just stop fucking hating each other, hopefully.
Right. I'm curious. So right here, it says over 100 NATO countries recognize Kosovo as an independent sovereign state. We had listed the other ones. It was Russia,
Croatia, I think, Greece, Spain.
Yeah, Spain, Slovakia, Romania, Greece. I'm curious what their argument against it is, because like we just brought those numbers up in terms of the 92% Albanians, and
I think it just links back to Serbia's cause of like, well, it's home to many of our religious sites. They point out in 1389 the land was stolen from them by the Turks. The Albanians rolled over, and that therefore they are entitled to their land that they haven't had in 600 years.
And do you think, because did you mention that the Serbians were Orthodox?
Yes, Serbia is a predominantly Serbian Orthodox church too.
So I wonder if there's any connection to the Russians in that way, like the Russian Orthodox Church.
I wouldn't be surprised. It's weird though, because in communist Russia, like the Russian Orthodox Church was totally shut down.
Yeah,
like they really weren't able to grow, and I think in Serbia it was tough too. But no, Serbia to this day is very, very Christian.
I think it's a shame that the Balkans are so hot in terms of conflict, because like you look at some of the pictures of like those countries are really beautiful, and they're right on the water.
Serbia is absolutely stunning.
And Dubrovnik in Croatia. That's where they shot a lot of Game of Thrones. That's like right on the water. That looks like really nice too.
No,
but Croatia's a pretty steady country, I think.
For the most part, they've done a better job with it compared to the former Yugos. But let me find some of the other notes that Johnny had. Johnny randomly on the bottom. I don't know why. One of the notes I have is Serbia equals Russia. That's what Johnny told me.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. So it seems like they go back and forth saying that the other person's from Russia, right? And that kind of goes back to the Illyrian thing, right? The Albanians believe they were there first, and that the Serbs came down from Russia.
It's so weird.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like there's so many. It springs out in so many different directions. Maybe we'll have him on sometime. You know, if we get a lot of views and the people want it, he'd probably be a good guy to talk to, and he'd probably obviously be able to connect the dots a bit more than us.
He'd definitely be biased. Another note I have from is Illyrians fought Turkey, saved Jews. So I don't know exactly what I think that he's talking like ancient history type shit. But yeah, it's all based around who the fuck are the real Illyrians. So that's like that's the message of this for Christian Barrasso out there. It's all about who the real Illyrians are, from what I can see.
I'm trying to see history of Jews in Albania. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything about the Illyrians fighting.
That may have been Johnny's.
What did he say? They fought Turkey.
Illyrians, period. Fought Turkey, saved a Jew.
Well, so I think like Turkey wasn't even a country when the Illyrians fell. So, but maybe that's like he's talking as Albanians like believe that they're still Illyrians. Maybe that's what he is kind of using that.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know why the hell he was talking about Jewish people. I wish I took more notes.
Oh God.
But no, I mean, so it was interesting talking to him about it, especially because I could tell on the phone he was very impassioned about the topic. And even when I first started talking about him, because I've known this dude for like since 2018, so like fucking 6 years now. I've known this Albanian cab driver, and I really never knew this much about his past. So that's just interesting for me.
No, I mean, shout out to him for being willing to talk to us about that.
Yeah, he brought up there's still tension today about the license plates. Thank God for United States. Slovenia went into war first, then Croatia, then Bosnia, then Kosovo. Yeah, he said he's non-religious, loves bacon and alcohol, married to Catholic. Yo, dude's a beast. No, he's fucking. When I talked to him, he owns like this little cab company. He was down in Florida, just like living my best life, my friend, American dream. And I was like, yeah, dude. He's more patriotic than most of the people out there.
Those are those good stories, man. So I'm trying to tack down this license plate thing. So it has to do with vehicle registration in Kosovo.
Is it trying to make it harder to get into Serbia?
Yeah, it's saying non-compliance, confiscation of non-Kosovar plates, including Serbian plates.
Okay, yeah.
So I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to have Kosovo plates.
It might be that the Serbians are just trying to use their own plates in there, and they're like, "What?"
That's what it seems like. Yeah. Interesting.
It's weird. It's a weird part. I mean, not to sound like an asshole. It's weird, but it is a different part of the world that most Westerners they can't really wrap their head around. Like these long generational feuds.
Well, right. That's a good point. I mean, I think the closest thing you could probably compare is like the Native Americans, and like a lot of their tribes had longtime feuds with each other. And I know like
there was a small tiny bit of my family being Irish where we shit on English people, but no one actually gives a fuck. We left in the 1800s.
Yeah,
it's over.
Right. Yeah, like, we're allies now.
Yeah.
We hate the French, but really
if anything, it just shows they follow their history, or at least their version of their history, to a fucking tack. I'm just trying to find some of the more recent stuff.
Which makes sense why it's so much more nationalistic in a lot of those areas, and why these conflicts come to a boiling point so often and then lead to, like we said in World War I, I forget. So who was behind the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand? Was that a Serbian?
He was a fucking Serb, dude. He was like 19 too.
Archduke Ferdinand of Austria. Yeah, he was assassinated on June 28th, 1914 by a Bosnian Serb student. So that could be another topic all in of itself there.
Dude, I would love to just go back into getting into Kosovo or just Yugoslavia as a whole, maybe. I don't know. A lot of the post-Soviet Union stuff is really, really, really interesting. Yeah, so I'm looking at a demographics map of Kosovo right now, and holy fuck. Lot of Albanians.
That's why, it's hard for us to kind of grasp the meaning of the conflict when you look at numbers like that.
Impossible.
But I guess props to the Serbs for being very adamant about it if they're such a low percentage of the people there. Because they were the ones trying to force the Albanians out.
Yep.
Which is
yes, they were. So,
it
also really varies on the death list. So let's see.
Yeah, it seems like the only part that's like mostly Serbian is the top of Kosovo, which was formerly, it bleeds into Serbia there if you look at it on a map.
Okay, so I'm seeing around 10,000 people were killed in the conflict. 7,000 to 9,000 were Kosovar Albanians killed by Yugoslav forces. 13,000 people went missing. 8,661 Albanian civilians were killed. 1,196 Serbs, and 447 Roma Bosniaks and other non-Albanians. So I don't know.
And there's so many different like terms to refer to like different groups of people too in that area.
Kosovo was so confusing.
Like you said, like generations of change and borders and empires fallen and whatnot.
Yeah, no, it's totally weird.
Definitely an area that's not short of topics to talk about.
Oh no, it's
for such a small area of the world too.
No, man, it's all around a weird one because that was, I don't know, that was Clinton's like sort of saving grace during his presidency, that he intervened and he was known as like the genocide stopper.
And that was that had to be
1990. This is like right before the Monica Lewinsky stuff, and like during it, he's like decided to bomb Albania.
Yep. And then was Bush elected in 2000? Trying to do the math there. It had to be. It's definitely towards the end of his term because Bush was president in
2001. Clinton was president till January 2001.
Yeah. So the Lewinsky thing happened near the end.
Yep.
That would have been interesting if he was. If it happened earlier.
But yeah, so overall, I don't know. I feel bad.
It's got a statue.
It's definitely all over the place because it's just one of those topics that is all over the place.
And it's great that we had like a firsthand source like that, but I feel like you really need
we got to
talk to people on every side to get a good idea about it. But I think for 2 weeks or so of studying up on this, I think we did pretty well. And like I said, hopefully people do their own research about it.
Please do your own research. Prove us wrong.
And it is cool for us because, if we're wrong about anything, definitely comment.
Let us know.
I'm sure we are.
What's the algorithm?
But it's cool because we're learning about it too.
No, definitely.
I really didn't know much about this.
I thought I knew about it a bit.
Yeah.
But I really had no clue. I just knew the U.S. peacekeeping element from my dad's buddy. But no, it's so much more convoluted. It's weird how it was fought. Because like I said, I wouldn't even say that it was a war, but it was more of an insurgency. And it's one of the rare times where the United States was supporting the insurgent group.
Yeah.
You don't see it too often in modern warfare. We're usually backing up a government to fight the insurgent group.
Right. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Well, I think, we're not going to pick sides here or anything. Obviously, we're unqualified to do so.
I'm on the side of a unified Kosovo with no violence.
Yes. Agreed. But I think it's like every other topic we've talked about. Nothing's black and white.
No.
So
yeah, I mean, that's for you to like come up to. That's the point of history. You should read both sources, try and get both sides of the argument, and then you come up with your own decision.
Yeah, and I hope that if this video pops up in people's algorithm, that we'll get some Serbian and Albanian opinions, comments. That would be cool.
That'd be awesome.
They do seem very fiery and passionate in the other videos
about their culture.
Yes. So we'll see, man. But yeah, episode 4, Hungover History Podcast.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening. Yeah,
we got more on the way. Comment below again if there's any topics you want us to talk about.
Yeah,
we'll get a whole list.
I know my buddy Ethan wants to do Killdozer for an episode. We can start bringing on some guests. I know Brian McPherson too would want to do some of the ancient history stuff. Which,
I love the.
You're kind of more of the postmodernist type, but all right, we can get it.
Definitely. I mean, the ancient history. Maybe if we spring it from something that we've talked about, like this. Yeah. We can always bring it to the modern fold.
We're definitely going to go back into like the Yugoslavia wars. This won't be the last time we mention Kosovo. Definitely not Serbia.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think too. I think the Catholic Church history of the Catholic Church has a lot to take from too.
That's a cool one, but that's so much to study.
Oh yeah, I know that would have to be like a multiple episode thing if we ever do that. But yeah, but thanks guys for listening. We'll be back. Hungover History Podcast drops every 2 weeks. Hope you enjoyed it. RJ, Mike, we'll see you.
All righty.
Cheers.
Cheers.